Hello, it's Peter Wright and Kathleen Beauvais from Canada, and a sunny Canada for a change, but still cold, with episode number 161 of The Yakking Show. This is a show to open your minds to new perspectives, which you need to do for the changing world we're living in. Things are changing daily as we talk. As always, we have interesting guests, but it's not my job to introduce our guests because Kathleen does it a whole lot better than I do. So let's give her a quick plug first before we welcome her. And that is she wears another hat, and that is to help you with any IT problems you may have. If you need to recruit new talent and you can't find them, or if you need people for projects, get hold of Kathleen. She'll help you out, and her contact details are in the description of the show, both on video, if it's Zoom or BitChute or Odyssey, and on the many audio podcast platforms that you will find us on. So here we go with The Yakking Show. Welcome, Kathleen. How are you doing today?
Oh, Peter, that was such a nice intro. Thank you so very much. And thank you all for tuning into our show. We so appreciate you, and we love reading your comments. So please keep those coming. And if anyone out there is interested in being a guest on our show, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Peter or myself. And today we have another wonderful guest that we've had on the show before, but today he's going to introduce something new, and I think you will be quite interested to hear about this. We're so happy to welcome Gary Jones. Gary, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Super duper. Thanks for having me.
Now, Gary, you have been a leader in Young Living for the past 5 years now, and you've grown a wonderful team with that company. But today you're going to be talking to us about a new venture, which involves a community dollar system. Can you, for the sake of the audience that hasn't heard you speak with us before, can you give us a little bit about your background and then what led you into creating a community dollar system?
Yeah, background. I guess, I was born and raised in Quebec, and I came to Ontario to get an education, met my wife-to-be, and never went back to Quebec, so that's a big part of it. And graduated from New York University and got involved with government offices for group homes and behavior mod programs and all kinds of hard-to-serve situations. Very active as an advocate for people with challenges. And when I retired from that industry, I got into marketing and did a lot of business consultation and found myself in the world of network marketing, which I just love when it's done properly. So I've been doing that for a while. When I got involved with Young Living with all the health products and supplements, I really found my home, and I've done very well with it. But, we're not all into one aspect of life. We have different volunteer work and involvements. And years ago, I got involved. I got to tell you a little funny side story. If people know me, they know I'm a huge Pete Seeger fan. I grew up listening to his music and got to see him and perform a number of times. And actually in 1984, I guess it was, no, it wasn't 84, it was 2004, I got to sit and have lunch with him and talk to him. And it was like the highlight of my idol career. If anyone knows Pete Seeger, you'd appreciate that. The reason I got to meet him is there was a conference at Shoemaker Center for Economics held in Bard College, a real fancy place in New York State. And it was about local economies, local shopping, local initiatives and such. And I was shocked to find out this was going on, but I wasn't into it. I was in a few barter and networking groups, but I didn't understand the whole power of community money. And my friend kept banging away and banging away. And on the very last day to book a ticket for this conference, up comes a pop-up window saying, by the way, if you want to stay an extra day, Pete Seeger will be performing. The next day, okay, I'm going to see Pete Seeger. But when I got there, a different Gary went in and a different Gary came home, because what I did is I immersed myself in 3 days of learning how different communities have adjusted to challenges when there's a lack of federal money and assets going on. I met people from Brazil, from LA, from Europe, from different parts of Scotland, England. There was 385 participants in the event. And every time I went, I just couldn't believe the differences. I mean, I could talk for 2 hours on synopsis of that weekend, because when there's a problem in a community, you call the government up and say, hey, can you give us 100,000 to fix this problem? Well, that federal money isn't there. So what communities are doing are starting their own form of currency. There's different models, and I can talk about that at length another time, but there's different types. I happen to have with me, this is a directory from Ithaca, New York, and they're kind of the granddaddy of all this stuff. They've got pages and pages of listings, like a phone book, where people can spend Ithaca money. So if you're a massage person, a restaurant, a business consulting, a yoga class, guitar lessons, whatever the case may be, everywhere money is used, they formed Ithaca currency, and they were able to get it out through different means, and people would shop locally with it. And you don't tend to go to the Walmarts and the Costco's with these things. You tend to buy from your neighbor, which is pretty cool. So when I came home, I said, all my business background and everything I learned, I could do this. And one of the flaws I found is a lot of these programs were earmarked for challenges because they're based on volunteers. And anyone who's been in a volunteer group knows that can be kind of iffy sometimes with people burning out or the wrong people doing the wrong thing. So I launched a community currency program in 2004 when I got back from this thing with local shopping. And I did it by myself. And I went for 2 years. And quite honestly, back then, guys, the economy wasn't that bad. Like people had their debit cards and their visas, and people that there was no challenge at that point. Whereas in Salt Spring Island, Calgary, Alberta, Ithaca, overseas, Tamworth, Ontario, there was communities that were under siege because of lack of money that did well with community money. But KW area where we live was doing pretty good. Yeah, there was a lot of homelessness and poverty and all issue that happened. I did it for 2 years, and it just didn't turn the corner. Merchants weren't buying into it. It was an unfounded situation. They weren't that eager to think outside the box. So I shut it down. In 2009, some people approached me, Gary, we love what you did, but you can't do it by yourself. So we formed a little bit of a group and relaunched it. And when we launched it this time, I had 2 years of going to economics studies and going and visiting I visited Spring Island for their system and met with the founders. I went to Calgary and met with the people running that. And that's amazing. If anybody wants to see a vibrant, well-run program, go to calgarydollars.ca, I believe it is. And calgarydollars.ca, you can sign up for local, and they create their own Calgary money. And they've recently gone to digital money on apps, which I'm not a big favor of, but it works for them. Ithaca's still going strong. There's a system called the Berkshires that have a system with millions of dollars of transactions going in, a different system than what I'm going to share with you today. But different communities in downtrodden communities, like parts of Scotland where they close mills and there's no employment, they've launched really interesting things. Sometimes they serve a purpose for 6 years and die out, and that's okay because that was their intention when the economy picks up again. There's even, I think I have some stuff here. I was on another podcast recently. They were talking about Depression era script. Depression, and after the war, a lot of communities, people came back, there's no work. And like Madison, Wisconsin made their own Madison bucks. And you could pretty well do anything in there, half federal money and half Madison bucks. And during that time, police report there was very little domestic violence. There was very little crimes and things from kids. The kids are things to do. So the different programs have a real impact. Matter of fact, the fella, Gerard Wheatley, I believe is the guy's name, who runs the Calgary program. He got his master's submitting papers on the economic value of the Calgary dollar program. Wow. He got his master's showing that how it affected by the insurgence of money into Calgary, how it affected downtown. I'll give you a little side example. I love what Calgary did. I spent 3 days there volunteering to learn from them. Imagine there's a whole bunch of posters on the wall, and the snow goes down, there's dog poop in the park and all that. I mean, the city don't have money to hire people to go with a little razor blade and clean up all the poles. But when you create your own city money, Calgary dollars, you could hire some people who need to do things, and they could do some of the stuff the city just doesn't have the money for. Then they could take the money they earn with their skills, whether it's just picking up, stuff, trash in the park or whatever, and they could go and buy things at local stores. So there's a real impact on the social side of it. And Gerard, as I said, did a master's on that. And he was so successful years ago that to this day, the city of Calgary give, I think, $70,000 in the budget to help run the program. And the United Way give another 70,000. And there's a center they run out of. They got an office, and the center offers them space and a secretary so many hours a week and all that, because they've proven it changes lives in the downtown core.
Wow,
Pretty
very
powerful
good.
stuff.
Gary, that's great. That's a really good description of how you got involved and how you got interested and the background to it. So I'm interested, how do you get it started and how does it actually work on the ground? Surely you need an injection of wealth of some sort to get this rolling.
Yeah, and again, we're doing it, I can't say, deep pocket sort of thing, and not a shoestring budget, something in the middle. We've had a number of people offer to do little videos and even podcasts like you guys do, just to help launch it as a business. But we already have the money printed. We have the money that people use. We have, believe it or not, $554,000 worth of currency. And we cater to the Wellington and Waterloo area. So we have pictures on here from Guelph, Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge. We have pictures on the money for it, all set to go. And the way it's going to be based is like a membership, just like you join the Chamber of Commerce or you join the YMCA. It's just a membership, and there'll be levels of membership. With someone who's just a consumer that just wants to shop, it'll be a nominal fee to get involved, and they'll get maybe, I don't know, $90 of spending money to go support local businesses. And then there'll be a home-based business one for people who are into health products or guitar lessons, yoga, things you do from that level of business. And there'll be an established one at about $200 a year, where the merchant will have a little change box to give small bills for change. And, it's all thought out, it's all ready to go. And the way the money will be launched is that. The other way is we're able to go to nonprofit groups. For instance, I'm talking to two right now. I shouldn't use their names until they give permission, but two groups where we're going to grant them $1,000 of money to help their group. So they have volunteers come in and do their activities, and they can say to the volunteer, "Thank you, here's $10, here's $10." And then they go on a website and say, where do I spend it? So we can reinforce volunteers, single parents, people who want to shop. Money is money. It's going to be the same as use money.
So
sorry, let me just finish that one so I can really understand it. Let's say I have a small corner shop, convenience store, and I'm say, Gary, I want to get involved in this. How to take me through as a corner store owner? What do I do to get involved in the system?
So it would be, don't hold me to the numbers, because we're playing with that as we speak. Yep. We're looking at what we can do and what we can't do to be sustainable. You would probably pay for advertising and membership, let's say $200, right? And you'd have a listing on our website that people know. And on the website, you'd say, I'll take 10% on non-sale items. Maybe you'll say, I'll take 10% Tuesdays only, I'll take 10% up. But if it's just services like guitar lessons, maybe you'll take 20%. So the people would know, and you'd have a little sticker on your window, just like Visa, MasterCard. We've already run off the stickers that we accept the money here, kind of thing. So we go up to your store and we see there, or we see it on the website, or we hear by word of mouth or some other social media things that, oh, there's 3 convenience stores. This person is part of our group. I should shop there. We should shop within our own network.
Okay.
Really. So and then you'd be able to say, I bought $100. You'd still have to charge me $100. They're not coupons. You'd still have to charge me $100. You still have to charge taxes, because this is not an avoidance system.
Sure.
You charge the taxes accordingly. But then I would hand you, if you said 10% on 100, I'd hand you one of these $10 bills.
$10 bill, yeah,
and $90 in other currency, whether it's debit, cash, Visa, MasterCard, whatever. My receipt would still say 100.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. What do I do with that? The accumulation of all those $10 bills. What do I do with them as a shop owner?
You'd go on there and say, well, what do I need? I need someone to clean my windows. You look on the website, on the directory, is anyone clean windows who would accept 10 or 20% of the transaction there.
Okay.
So you almost follow the money. It's kind of fun. Like you become a member, and you maybe even give back 10. Like, Canadian Tire, you get money back when they're getting out of paper money and just digital, but we all know the paper money scene. So you come into your store and I buy $100 of stuff, and you accept some money from me, or maybe you give me, here, Gary, you're a good guy, here's $5, thanks for shopping here. Then you take the money and get the window cleaner. The window cleaner maybe goes and gets some guitar lessons for his son, and the guitar lesson teacher goes to a music shop and gets some. They call it circulation of money. It's exactly what it is. Goes back to Egypt. Egypt. Remember the word, the banks of the Nile and circulation.
Yes, that's right.
It's all connected.
But the beauty of this is it's kept in the community, because if you're using Guelph dollars, you can only use them in Guelph or Kitchener.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. I got the idea of how it works. Thank you. Kathleen, over to you.
Interesting. So when is this program going to launch, Gary?
We're already doing a pre-launch now. I'm actually calling in favors from people I have relationships with to get some listings on the site. We just commissioned a guy to make the website last week, and he needs 60 days already to get it. And of course, it's a lot of work of content and, all that stuff and the merchant listings. But we'll do a soft launch, and in the fall, probably a serious heavy launch. Just as an aside, September 10th is the annual Day in the Park for Nonviolence in September. We've already aligned with them where September 10th will be at Victoria Park from noon till 5, I believe it is. We'll have an information booth there, and we'll be, if someone comes up, see, most people don't understand what money is. They don't understand banking, essential banking, loans, collateral. They're really naive to that. And I've done a deep dive over the last 20 years learning more about that stuff. So how could I just hand out money to someone and say, well, it's not a coupon. It uses over and over and over again, like money, right? But there's no collateral. You don't have to say, can I borrow money? You don't have to. We don't sell money. I want to be very clear. We don't sell money. If you bought a $200 membership for that store you talked about, Peter, you might get, I don't know, at this point, we're looking at $600 of paper money for you to do. And the trick is to get the same with anyone who's been in a barter group. Sometimes you accept barter points for your group and you look on their directory and there's nothing you need there. That's the big hook. That's the big hook. If you don't need flowers and you don't need veterinary services and you don't need that, and that's all they have there, you collect it for your stuff and say, what do I do with this now?
Sure.
So one thing that isn't quite clear to me, Gary. So if I'm a member, I pay for the membership, I get a certain dollar amount of these community dollars. That's when I can go shop with these community dollars.
Yep.
Okay, but for instance, I'm just going to give the analogy of Canadian Tire. When I go to Canadian Tire, make a purchase, I get back Canadian Tire money for that purchase. Is that?
It could go both ways. It could be, you could advertise, come to my store, and if you come on Tuesdays, you get 5 or 10% back in our community dollars. It could go that way.
Okay.
And it could be, I'll give you a short little story. When I went to Ithaca, drives the point home. When I went to Ithaca, we got our hands on some Ithaca money, and they don't sell the money there. We had to join something, and they gave us a welcome package with some Ithaca money in it. So we said, where can we spend it? And they said, well, there's a Mexican food place, great family business down the street. So the 3 or 4 of us went in, and the owner came out because we were from Canada. He wanted to talk to us. And he said a great story. This is powerful. He said that when they opened and they just got to the point of family business, we got some equity in it and things were going well. They got the branding, people trusted them, blah, blah, blah. And what they did is you pay the first meal in federal US money, and the second meal you could pay with Ithaca money.
Okay.
That was their thing. And I think it was only Tuesdays and Thursdays. Don't hold me to that, but they had their own rules on their listing. Then he found out Taco Bell is moving in right across the street. And oh my God, we're dead in the water here with Taco Bell. They got all the corporate brochures and door-to-door flyers and all that. So the people from the Ithaca program went to Taco Bell and said, you're downtown now, would you like to accept that? And they said, oh, we can't. We have no apparatus on our software. We can do Visa, MasterCard, cash, American Express. We can't do another form, and it conflicts with head office. So anyways, the people in Ithaca continued going where they could spend their Ithaca money. And 4 months later, Taco Bell closed their doors. So if you're shopping locally, and that's I was just on another podcast earlier today where they're saying shopping locally means actually building a relationship with somebody and not just thinking you're buying and the money all goes to head office somewhere. So anyways, when they did that, the people there was great. So at the end of the meal, we were all excited because we're actually using the money for the first time. The waitress came over, and I held up a tip in American money, and I held up a tip in Ithaca money. I said, "Which tip do you want?" And I sat back. She took the Ithaca money. And I said, well, "What's that all about?" She says, "Well, you're being more generous with that than you are with the federal money."
Right.
You know, so I said, "Well, what are you going to do with it?" And she said, "The local craft brewery on Fridays will take half in cash and half in Ithaca money for the beer. So we're all in residence, we're all university students there, and we go get our beer and use the tip money to get more beer than we would with your other tip."
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So here's a quick one. So the community dollar is always on a par with the local currency, right? So
We
one
use it
community
dollar
dollar,
for dollar. Yeah.
dollar for dollar.
If you had a price tag, you were selling a used guitar. Well, that's the other thing too. We'll have a whole directory of people's one-off things. Currently we're working with Facebook Marketplace, but we're trying to be more independent in that platform. But if you had a doll carriage, your baby grew up and the carriage is for sale, old skis, you're getting rid of the CDs and DVDs, you'd be able to advertise on there, providing you took a minimum amount of community dollars and encourage the one-off. Now that's not a store and that's not a home-based business.
Sure,
like
it's a one-off.
It's a one-off thing.
So there's another quick one. Will there be a residual market? Going back to my little corner store, let's assume I get more community dollars than I can ever hope to spend for the services that I use, for instance. And I'm now accumulating a huge pile of community dollars, but I need some real dollars to pay the receiver revenue or whatever. Is there going to be a residual market that I can exchange those, perhaps a discount market?
No, because we don't sell the money. Salt Spring Island sell the money. Toronto Dollar Program, that they're no longer operating because of the volunteer issue, but Salt Spring's a good example. If I walk into Salt Spring Island and give them a $20 Canadian bill, they give me a 20 Salt Spring bill. So yeah, I could in Salt Spring get my money back, you know. When I was in Salt Spring, I actually put my debit card in the ATM machine at the tourist bureau, and Salt Spring money came out of the ATM
really
machine.
Yeah
Pretty well. But
I
to
would
answer your question, Peter, if you called me up and said, "Look, Gary, I got like $810 of this stuff and I don't know what to do with it," we would probably try and find a way to make things work. For instance, you might say, "Hey, I'm taking a holiday, I need a bread and breakfast."
Sure.
We'd probably find a negotiating way to keep you happy. You may want to give your staff a Christmas bonus, part in cash and part in money, so they can spend it. There's all kinds of solutions.
I would like to bet that when this becomes successful, which I'm sure it will, for a reason I'll ask you in a separate question just now, that there will be some, because of the power of the marketplace, some bright person will say, I can start some discount trades here and I will take the surplus from one guy and pass it on to someone else and make a little bit in the middle. That might be totally contrary to what you're trying to do, but I could see that happening. Could you?
Yes, and I always go back to what do we do with Canadian American money, like federal money, right?
Yeah.
And you might turn around and say, you know, here's a guy that's really stuck and, you know, I'm going to buy something and we'll negotiate. So if you consider our company as a central bank, right?
Right.
And then someone gets it, we have no control if they're, to be honest with you, no control if they're buying drugs or they're doing something. Money is money. If you have a garage sale, people don't go declare that to the to the powers that be because it's just off the books kind of activity. So our website will very clearly say that if you're a business, you should be declaring it as an income.
I understand completely. No, what I'm saying is if me as the corner store ends up with 1,000 community dollars and I can't find anywhere to spend them, and somebody, a private individual, comes along and says, look, I know how to get rid of community dollars, but because you want me to change them for Canadian money, I'm going to buy them at a discount of 10%. It's entirely legal, but I could see that coming into play.
Totally between the buyer and the seller, but
yeah, sure.
When I look at Ithaca, Salt Spring, Calgary, I've never heard of that happening. I've never heard of that happening.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. You're right.
So, but the nice thing, sorry, Kath, the nice thing about that, it means that no one should ever be stuck with community dollars that they can't use in one way or another. They might have to take a small cut on it. Okay, got it. Thank you. Kathleen, you.
So is there a finite amount of paper money that will be printed? And
we're already looking at I have two series of money. The one I just held up a second ago was from the last, we had that it's kind of funny because I maybe it's right to share the story. When I shut the program down, I fell up in Mount Forest. I said, look, my father has the barn. I had 17 boxes of banners and binders and all these things that we had to put up in the loft. And that was a while ago. And he called me up recently and said, Gary, the barn's selling. You got to come get your stuff. And I went, oh my goodness, what do I do with this stuff? And at the same juncture of time, because of COVID and lockdown and the economy changing, I had so many people tell me, Gary, I wish you still had your program. I wish. And suddenly I get a phone call saying, I got to do something about the stuff. So 2 or 3 people said, Gary, don't do it yourself. We'll get involved. And it relaunched. It's just like the universe saying it's time. It was too early before, but now it's ripe, So anyways, we sorted, took an inventory of everything else. And we have, I think, $554,000 of value, like piles and piles of notes that we had to kind of count everyone to do a proper launching inventory. And we take that, but we're already looking at running another run of money, interestingly enough, with Polymar, like our new Canadian money. It's like a synthetic. We're looking at doing that. We have a printer right now jobbing that out and pricing it for us for the future. We're already thinking next run.
Right.
But we have enough now. Something that's interesting, there's an economic, and then there's a difference between monetary reform and economic reform. Monetary reform is how the money's made and comes to life, like loans and all that, how it's birthed and how it comes out. Economic is what you do with it thereafter. There's an economic term called the velocity of money. So let's say the 3 of us made yakking show bucks. Okay, you're gonna go into the compete with me here. But anyways, you were yakking show bucks and you launched it, and 100,000 went out in the month of January, and all those people bought and sold something, and in February the 100,000 again, and then it moved again in March. That's, let's say, in 10 months, that's 100,000 times 10.
It's $1 million.
That's
Yeah,
$1 million of commerce that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
It wouldn't have happened, except now we've created an insurgence of capital when there's a lack of federal money in this day and age. And again, people don't take a loan. They don't need collateral to get it. It's just a nominal membership fee that should be of value to them at whatever level. And there's going to be a fee too, just a nominal fee for someone that just wants to be a shopper and consumer, and they don't have a business.
Right. Now, are you, is there going to be a digital version developed?
I hope not. I hope not. I really think if you look at the Depression era when we didn't have Facebook and all the stuff we've got now, communities did really well by going up face to face, and you go to the farmer and buy some eggs and just hand them the community money there. So the whole thing of building relationships, when it gets digital, to me, maybe it's my age and my generation or whatever. Also, too, digital stuff can be hacked. Digital stuff has its shortcomings to it. Calgary are doing very well with their download. You can take an app on your phone. But if you don't have a phone, you're on low income, a senior, homeless. Then if you don't have an app on the phone, you're void from where do I spend my money and all that.
Right.
I'm not into like making a paper directory like we had back not that many years ago, but most people can either go to the library if they don't have a laptop or something, and they can go, where do I spend my money, and just click on a directory, that and the goal is we can't do it ourselves. We need the people who get involved sharing it and saying to their friends, hey, if you shop here, I'll give you this money, and get that word of mouth kicked in. And I have a good feeling about that.
I think, can I jump in quick, Kathleen? I know we're running short of time. I think your timing is about perfect because, as you know, I'm a maverick than Kathleen, and a great conspiracy theorist and everything else. So I'm looking at what's happening, and I have experience of what governments do when they go off the rails. And I see how the government quickly froze bank accounts of people involved in the convoy. I'm not arguing about whether the convoy is good, bad, or indifferent. That's not the point. A huge number of people are now suspicious of government control of their bank accounts, digital currency in particular, and looking for alternative methods of exchange, which this dovetails beautifully. And if I can just go on a bit further, there's a parallel banking system, the third world, and I have intimate knowledge of this. I can't remember the name, for transferring money across continents without using the commercial banks, right, with just a telephone. So that's yet another reason why I think your idea is coming at exactly the right time. So well done.
Let me comment on that.
Be a real winner. I really do.
2 words come to mind. One is an alternate currency system, which is Bitcoin and all those things. are vulnerable.
Of course.
As far as
Yeah.
we want to shut down the internet or hack things, all that. That's an alternate.
Yeah.
Ours is a complementary system. It complements. When you go in, you're paying part in federal money and part in. And if the federal money's down, right, ours goes down up with it. It's a parallel. So it's called a complementary system.
I agree.
And there's over 3,000 varieties around the world.
But if the government money goes down and the government controls increase, it could well become a parallel system more than a complementary system amongst small groups, small communities.
Well, there's one group I researched in. It's interesting because my wife and I are going to UK in May, and there's a group in Stroud that are relaunching, just similar to what I just said about my situation. They had a group going, and they had in there something called the 100% Club. That on the directory, they had a little logo, like a little, thing on the thing, that they do 100%, not on all their products and services.
No,
but
sure.
on these ones. In Ithaca, if you went, even today, there's a store there to have kind of gifty, cutesy kind of things for the wall and preserves, all that. And they put a yellow sticker, a green sticker if they take 20% money, and a yellow sticker if they take 50% money, and a red sticker on the preserves and jellies they have if they take 100%. Why? Because the stale date's getting on the preserves. They got to get out of their store, or it's not selling well. And they'll take 100% Ithaca money on the red sticker products.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's really a lot of creative stuff out there that people, they're going to come up with ideas I hadn't even thought of. There's going to be somebody out there doing something that, and you can, if you had $1,000 and you didn't want to do it, Peter, you could donate it to your church or the food bank, or, you could do it's money. If we had $500,000 of money right now, and we put a little mark on the Canadian money, you'd be able to follow it from the convenience store to the washer.
So Gary, how will shoppers find participating businesses?
There'll be a sticker on the door for the ones there. If you're a home-based business, let's say someone sells health products, like someone we know, and they had a booth at a show, there might be a little plastic sign saying we accept our community dollar. And the other way is online. They'll be able to go on a directory and go by category, looking for infant stuff, baby stuff, car stuff, like any shopping directory. You'd be able to click on the category. There'd be a little search engine. That's what we're working on now. And, so if you're looking for someone that does, women who get their nails done and stuff like that too, you'd look. The challenge is going to be, if you live in Waterloo and we've only got one in Cambridge, no one's going to drive that far to use their money. So we need to make it really localized in there. And we're actually looking at a way of getting a couple of team members that maybe get, when they sell a membership, get a commission, and they'll take care of their own, Mount Forest or whatever. There'll be somebody up that way who has a vested interest in their own backyard. Right. Got a lot of good ideas, but we just need the people to buy into it. And with the way the economy is, I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think people are going to say, I'll try it. What the hell? I put cash in a newspaper ad, nothing happens, so I'll try anything.
Right. Well, Gary, we're short on time. Just tell our audience how they can get a hold of you.
Well, the best way is if you call right now to our we have an email at info@ourcommunitydollar.com, spelled the way it sounds, OUR communitydollar.com, and and it's directed right now while the construction's going on. It's directed so we can still see it. And the website we're launching is called www.ourcommunitydollar.com. And, while we're in transition here, just call me directly. My cell number is 519-716-3592. And text me, call me, that kind of thing. But there's a lot of businesses struggling out there right now, and they're looking for that life raft, that life they can just grab onto it and try anything. And let's say you're a pizzeria and someone tries you for the first time because you take the money. They might be a customer for life and stop going where they're going before. A lot of power to it.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Well,
excellent. Thank you, Gary. That was,
my goodness,
that's really good.
It is. I'm excited for this to launch, Gary. Really, I am.
Let's see the design. Hold one of your notes up so we can get a good picture, so people know what we're talking about.
This is the. Can you see it there? Okay.
Yeah, Waterloo, Wellington. Excellent. Very pretty. Yeah.
And the pictures we took on there before, there's pictures, like I said, of Guelph and this is what do you call it? The Cray House up in Guelph, where the guy that wrote Flanders Field. We got
Okay.
permission to use the
Yeah,
image. We took
yeah.
a picture on it. The old city hall in
Yeah.
Cambridge, you know.
Excellent.
And
Excellent.
there's a tower in Kitchener. So I got some of the bills up there, but I'll
Yep.
take a second too. The backs are all the same. They're called
Okay.
the common back, which
Right.
means if you're in Guelph and want to shop in there, you don't go by just the color on the top. It's common. Matter of fact, Peter, if you want to open this program 2 or 3 years from now up your way, the back would look like that and the front would be pictures of your backyard.
Right.
It has the capacity to grow. We're not thinking that way, but the common back concept makes it possible to open different cities. And
Sure.
there's lots of good references on Wikipedia, and if people want to do a deep dive, I can point them towards some phenomenal books on
Excellent.
different types of systems.
Wow, thank you so much.
Thank you, Gary.
Really appreciated having you on the show. And before we go, though, I'd like to give a little plug, speaking of the books, Gary, to my wonderful friend, Peter Wright, who has written a lovely book. Honestly, it is
keep
one
forgetting my book.
interesting, fascinating story, one that movies are made out of. Peter, hold up that book if you have it. 5 Steps to Thriving on Adversity, folks. Get yourself a copy. And Peter, how do people get a copy of your book?
By going to my blog, peterwrightsblog.com, and there's an order form right on the front page of that website.
Thank
And
you.
Peter, if people
Yep.
feel to buy it, you can use a bookmark. I'll give you a bunch of $5 bills. to
There
put
we
in
go.
and offset the
That's a
decision.
good idea. Yeah.
Excellent. All right.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you. And thank you all so much for tuning in once again. We so appreciate you and we love reading your comments. So until next time, take care. Bye-bye, everyone.